Hey guys, question of the day comes from Murthy. He asks, let me read it. I get great scores when I take my individual short quizzes by knowledge area or process group, but my score slips a little bit when I take the long 200 question exams. What can I do to get my scores up? So that's a great question. We get it all the time. We've developed 4 strategies to help you guys when you're in this spot. So let's think about it. The full exam, 4 hours, 200 question, it is a marathon. It's tough for anybody. And so we got to prepare ourselves. And so what we want to do, the first thing is, how do we deal with the marathon aspect of it, the 4-hour aspect? We want to attack it in 30-minute chunks. And so if we set ourselves up for 30-minute problem-solving chunks, we'll be ready to handle the full 200 question 4-hour thing. And so think through it. You do 30 minutes of question answering, and then you take a 3-minute break. You get up, you stretch your legs, you walk out, get a glass of water, clear your head, and you come back. And so what that's going to do is we don't worry about how many questions we got right. We just do the 30 minutes and we repeat 8 times. And what that does is it'll focus your attention on short sprints as you go through. Now you're going to have to practice this technique as you go through, but it's very, very effective. So strategy number 2, I want you to start every question by asking, where am I in the process group knowledge area table? So when you take focused quizzes by knowledge area or process group, it's great because you can dive down and find your weaknesses. Now, when you take the quizzes, you're going to have a certain comfortability and a certain focus because you're focusing on specific areas. And the questions are going to repeat in these typical areas. Now, we all know that the processes aren't on islands and they all link. That's a big part of how we understand PMP materials. But when you focus in these areas, you're not challenged on jumping around. Your brain's not challenged on jumping around. So the challenge is when you go to the big exams, you're going to have to jump around, okay? So the first question might be about starting a project, and then you might have one about closing a project. Then you got a closing or a scope question, and then you got a communication question, then back to scope. And so what you're really losing, and this might be related to why your scores are going down a little bit, is you're losing the most important thing you need on the exam, and that's perspective. So I want you guys to really frame in on perspective. And so what do I mean by perspective? I mean, you need to know, and for visual thinkers out there, this is how I want you to think. See that table? Knowledge areas, process groups. Every time you read a question, the first time you read it, you need to ask yourself, where am I as the project manager? Where am I on this table? And so I want you to see one of the processes light up and blink at you and say, I am here. I am in managed quality. I am in develop project charter. Wherever you are, you need to know, where am I? And so once you frame in your mind, this is where I am in the process, then all the jumping around doesn't matter. You can dive down, you can focus, and you can say, what inputs are super important? What am I trying to produce? What tools do I need? And then how will this process affect other processes? To ask the second super most important question is, what would the project manager do next? So perspective leads to execution, and we can do that. And so the third strategy is, I want you to focus on building momentum, not on answering all the questions. So what do I mean by that? When you start the exam, this is especially important when you start, I want you to focus on building momentum by answering questions that you feel confident, 90% confident in. So answer them, build that momentum. Anything that you don't really feel confident in, make sure you strike out stuff that's obviously wrong, flag the question, and move on. So as you do this is going to help your brain get organized to, this is how I'm feeling on the day, this is how the questions are being asked, let me think about how I'm attacking these questions, and by getting more questions that you feel right on, you're going to build that momentum that you need to succeed. And the weird thing is, as you come back later to check the questions that you've already flagged, a lot of those questions, you're going to find out that you now know the answer to. Your brain has been working behind the scenes and you don't even know it. So now you'll be able to answer those questions easier. But if you focus on them and grind through them at the beginning, it'll slow you down. You'll start to get stressed, and that's not a good thing. So let's roll through them, get things right, and then come back and hit it hard. Okay? So the last strategy is I want you to simulate the actual PMP environment. And what do I mean by that? Let's think about the actual environment. If you don't know, it's a really crazy environment. It's really quiet. They check your pockets, your sleeves, your glasses sometimes to make sure that you're not, bringing any foreign material or cheap material in. And then when you get in there, it's super quiet. It's super quiet. It's freaky quiet. And then also any kind of a distraction from another student, maybe a tapping, a chewing, a coughing, could throw you off. And so let's think about our home environments. It's a lot of times it's kids running around, TV's on, internet's going. We need to simulate that crazy quiet antiseptic environment that we're going to see on the PMP exam. Because when we do that, that's going to allow us to put ourselves in a state-based learning condition where you're ready for the exam when it happens. So you go, hey, I've already done this before. I've been in a crazy quiet spot. And now I know how to take the exam. So I recommend going to a library instead of a coffee shop, maybe a quiet conference room at your company to organize your mind in taking those exams. So that's a long video, guys, but that's 4 strategies that you can use to get your full PMP score up. Because our goal is not just to get 80% on the short 200 question exam or the actual practice 200 question exam. It's to get 80 plus on the full exam. I want above targets across the board. So keep the questions coming. That was a good one. Let's keep these going. I love the conversation. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Thanks a lot.